Queen Elizabeth is at the Bharat Jodo Yatra, but she's also been following the updates coming in from the Health Ministry. So she's the best person to update us on the latest coming in from there. Shireen, now we know the centre is prepared for any kind of COVID eventuality here. We know nasal vaccines are going to be introduced. There is adequate liquid medical oxygen being made available to the various states. But the big question is masks. Currently, there is an advisory that you can mask up. It is advisable to mask up. Do you expect it to become mandatory? Perhaps, what are your sources telling you?
Well, the sources within the Health Ministry had made it clear that nothing is going to be mandatory. Any sort of guideline or any sort of rules that they are going to implement on ground, that is not going to be mandatory at the moment, because India is doing very well as far as the COVID cases are concerned. The positivity rate at the moment is in fact much below, which is around 1% to 2%. Even today morning, we have seen around only 200 cases that were reported of COVID. And that is why India at the moment is doing very well, and that is why they don't want to imprint or impose any sort of guideline on people at the moment. And they believe that with number of appeals, with series of appeals and a series of advisories being released by the government, there is going to be sort of an alert and awareness among people, and they will start wearing masks or will maintain social distancing. But any sort of mandatory or compulsory rule, they don't want to impose right now, because the situation is much better, is what the Health Ministry believes in, and that's why they don't want to make anything strict at the moment.
Thank you very much, Shireen, for joining us for those details. Going across to our next piece of breaking news. The Central Bureau of Investigation has arrested former Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of ICICI Bank, Chanda Kochhar, and her husband, Deepak Kochhar. She has reached the Mumbai court for the hearing today. We're joined by my colleague Ashish Mershi, who brings us more on this. Ashish, what are the charges against Chanda and her husband?
So now, if you remember, during the period 2009 and 2011, substantial amount was sanctioned by the ICICI Bank to Videocon Group. Now, if you remember, by 2017-18, these loans turned out to be NPAs. So when the investigation started into this, the CBI found that there was substantial amount of kickbacks which reached into a company called NU Power. Now, the NU Power, basically in NU Power, 50% of the equity is with Deepak Kochhar, who is the husband of Chanda Kochhar. And interestingly, the money came from Supreme Energy, which is a Videocon Group company. So the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate basically alleged that this is nothing else but kickback money for sanctioning loans to Videocon Industries. And finally, if you remember, in 2020, during COVID times itself, Deepak Kochhar was arrested by the Enforcement Directorate under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and he's out on bail. But it is interesting that since, after 2019, when the FIR was lodged, it's for the first time that we are seeing both husband and wife being arrested by the CBI. So what is that they have found new? That is what will be very interesting. Let's see with the remand application and how many days of custody that the CBI is going to look forward. They're already being produced. Both husband and wife are being produced before the Mumbai court. They were taken away by a plane today in the morning by CBI, and today they're going to be produced before a CBI court in Mumbai. Let's see how many days of custody the CBI gets and what new they are going to tell the court as of now.
Yes, indeed, Ashish. We'll keep an eye on those emerging details. But thank you very much for joining us for those updates.